Welcome home, where we provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator here on America's Next. I have Taylor Thompson here with me today. How you doing, Taylor? Doing all right? Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say hello to everyone who's coming into the building right now. I want to say thank you. We are in episode 160 something, and give me 1 second.
Oh, hi.
Yep. How you doing, Taylor?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I was just telling people that I'm on episode 160 something, and it never gets old. I'm extremely enthused about discovering who you are, discovering your journey, and your why.
Thank you.
Gotta let people know that I'm sipping a little tea today, and not sure what it's doing, but I'm enjoying it.
Cheers.
Cheers. What are you drinking?
Water.
Okay. All right.
Got to get my water in for today.
That's right. Let's get right into it. Taylor, where did you grow up?
Well, okay, Cedric, I'm so happy to be here, and I just love your energy. So I'm so happy for you to have me on here today. So thank you so much. So a little bit about me. I was actually born in Oklahoma, but was raised in West Texas.
Okay.
Not too many people you think about West Texas. It's really exactly what you think about it. But I lived all over. There's probably not a space that you could name in the West Texas region that I haven't lived. I went to 5 different elementary schools, so moved around a lot. So
Okay.
grew up all over the place.
What was it like for you growing up in West Texas? I've never been to specifically West Texas, and when I think of Texas, I think of old school westerns like Bonanza, The Rifleman. You know, those are a couple of my favorites. Oh yeah, and Tumbleweeds. I think about those two, Tumbleweeds.
Well, I mean, I didn't really have an ideal kind of upbringing by any stretch of the imagination. And I don't know how down and dirty you want to talk about this conversation, but, my father was a Vietnam vet, and he came back very disturbed, I would say. And he was really abusive to my mom. And whenever I was 4, he actually kidnapped me at gunpoint from my mom after, really abusive situation. So I was like on the run for the first part of my life, hidden cars and I never got to go out during the day. So that was a kind of an interesting start of my life. And, after 10 months, my mom didn't know if I was dead or alive. The FBI got involved, and I did get returned back to my mom. In the meantime,
Hold on. You're what a beginning to this show. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking to a survivor today, someone who is on the other side of traumatic experiences. And I just want to commend you for even being here today. And of course, we're going to dissect some of the things that you've said today. The first thing I want to talk a little bit about is you were gone with your father for 10 months?
Yeah.
What was happening? What was happening? What were you eating? Where were you sleeping? How did you survive?
I think whenever you're little, you don't really think about all the necessities of life. I mean, I don't remember going hungry. I don't remember, being like that. I just, I remember traveling around a lot. I remember being in the back seat on the floor bed of cars a lot. I think my dad kind of made it an adventure in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
You didn't know. It sounds like.
He was not abusive to me in that time frame. There was, I remember early on, I remember some things that were not very pleasant. But during that time frame, I do remember missing my mom. I do remember wanting to talk to my mom, and I don't remember how he deflected it. But, it was, and unbeknownst to me, my mom was frantically looking for me. Unbeknownst to me, none of because my father, his family, they knew I was okay, but whenever my mom was trying to communicate with them, they were not communicating with her. They wouldn't tell her if I was dead or alive, if I was okay. So it was probably way more traumatic for her than it was for me. But, and in the course of that, while she was looking for me, she met my stepfather, and they, developed a close relationship. But, after 10 months, they found me. I was reunited with my mom, and yeah, so that was
what was it like? Yeah, what was it like when you reunified with your mother? How did it feel?
I remember, I literally remember, it was so crazy. I remember it was because it was actually my father's grandmother. We were in Oklahoma, and she's actually the one that called my mom's parents and said, hey, he's got her here. And it was only about 50 miles from where my mother's parents lived. And so they got the police and the FBI and everybody's. So, I remember them taking me out of my bed and putting me underneath this dining room table and with this big window. And I'm looking out the window, and I can see like all the lights flashing and the police everywhere. And I didn't know it was all for me.
Yeah.
But I just remember seeing my mom, and I was waving at my mom, and I was so, obviously I'm a little girl. I was excited to see my mom. I hadn't seen her in months. And that's what I remember. I don't remember any of the turmoil about that. To me, so it was a good one. It was a good thing.
Now, when you finally reunified, did you have brothers and sisters? Was your family totally different? Like, what happened over the course of those 10 months?
I was the only child. So, whenever I was reunited with my mom, again, she had established a relationship with my stepfather now. So that was like in April, and she married my stepfather in May. So here I have this brand new, father figure in my life. Within a month, I didn't even know this man. And then within the next month, because my mom didn't put my dad in jail, it was summertime, and he had earned the judge had granted him summer visitation. So I was off to my dad. So my dad came to pick me up for the summertime, and I locked everybody out of the house because I was afraid he was going to take me away from my mom again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. How did this impact you in school? Let's say in elementary school. How did this all affect you there?
I was bullied all through school. Whenever I started my school, I lived in a really small town in West Texas. We lived on a farm. And so I was bused to school, and you can't hardly see my hair now, but I have long hair, and I had really long hair as a little girl. It was curly, and it was one of those things that, everybody was like, oh, your hair is so beautiful. Your hair, I remember that being a part of my identity. And then my stepfather, because my mom was a nurse, and she was at work by the time I got up to get ready for school. And he made my mom cut off all my hair. And so I had really short hair. And so it was devastating to me, because that was a part of like who I was, it's like when, especially women and hair, but it was really a big thing. And
can you talk about that a little bit for young ladies out there? Because I've heard of that before. A young lady getting her hair cut off, and somebody thinks, oh, it's not a big deal, it's just her hair. Talk about the value, the profound connection that you had with your hair.
Well, I think because as a little girl, like I said, so many people, whenever, you're introduced to adults and you're supposed to say hello. And, I just remember so many times people would say, oh my gosh, your hair's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's so long and curly and beautiful. And so you start connecting, how people perceive you through outward things, right? Your hair, your eyes, whatever that is that people, and then so whenever it's not there anymore, then it's like, okay, am I still pretty? Am I still who,
Wow.
and then, as a little girl, you don't know, but it really was a disconnect, because whenever I got on the school bus and they started teasing, they literally called me a werewolf.
Wow. Because
Yeah.
your hair was hacked off and they didn't know how else to describe it, and that was mean.
It was just, they were mean. Kids are mean, right?
Yeah.
Kids are mean and brutal. And then on top of that, you can't see now because I'm sitting here, but I've always been very tall. Like, I'm 5'11". So I've always been very tall. So I was either teased because of my hair, or I was teased because of my height.
Mhm.
So so I grew up and I went, and then I went to 5 different elementary schools. So that was I changed schools almost every year.
Right.
And so I had to start over with a new set of friends and relationships and coming. And so the first thing that it did for me is, even though it gave me a fresh start, but it also created a semblance of confidence in me, that I had to put myself out there. I had to develop relationships. I had to, be, connect with people, and I couldn't stay in my shell. I had to put myself out there. So I think it taught me some valuable skill sets, as that I've carried on into my life now.
Now, how many people know that you went through these things as a child, would you say?
Nobody.
None, right?
I've shared my story a couple of times. I think this is like the second time I've actually shared this story. I've never even really shared that story with my children. I have 3 daughters, and I've never really shared that part of my story with them.
I'm hearing so much strength, and I don't want to be offensive when I say strength. It's clear to me that you didn't let those experiences that you had in your life, you didn't let it stop you. You said, well, I've got to be more assertive. My hair is not as long as it used to be, but guess what? Taylor Thompson is still here. I might be moving around from one school to the next, but guess what? Taylor Thompson is still here. All while being attacked by different kids. And, now you are a successful businesswoman. And so it's in these moments right here where so many people can relate to the experience that you had, the challenge that you had to overcome. Different people have different challenges, but you're no different. And so when you talk about your challenges, so many more people are able to relate to you. I, for one, I'm going crazy in my mind right now, because I'm like, I would have never guessed that. I wouldn't guess that anyone was so-called kidnapped by their father and that they were gone for 10 months. I wouldn't guess that about anyone. And so what you're telling me right now is very inspirational, that you're on the other side of it today. And just want to commend you for that as well.
Well, it was only preparing me for what was ahead, because we've only scratched the surface.
What was next? Let's go. Yeah.
Well, so I, it prepared me for, I ended up going into, I went to a high school. I started high school, but I really found some identity really in athletics, and I really made my own way, because I was a very good athlete with basketball and track and volleyball. And so I was an all-star athlete. And so I created an identity in those realms. And then I got into a lot of trouble, because my family, my mom and my dad, started having some challenges. My stepfather, he actually moved out and moved in with another woman. And so my mom was going through so many crazy, crazy things. And so I'm like out here on a limb, I'm in the most challenging time of my life, and I was always the straight A student. I was always the perfect kid, the ideal, child. And I started rebelling, I started, there was this older guy. He was in high school and I was still in junior high school, and he thought I was cute and I thought I liked the attention, and I didn't do anything, really, I didn't do anything promiscuously bad. It's just that I did rebel. And I figured out whenever you have rules without a relationship, it creates rebellion. And,
wow. Okay.
and so I learned that valuable lesson. Like I said, I have 3 daughters now that I'm like, okay, that's one thing that I will never, that whenever I have kids, that won't be the path for them. I'm going to create something different. And, so but then my family moved, my family moved me actually my junior year in high school. And,
wow.
that was really devastating for me. I was in a pretty large high school. It was about 450 people in my class, and they moved me to another West Texas town, and there was not even 450 in the whole entire school.
Okay. Did that make you did that make you a big fish in a small pond? Did you become even more popular?
Yeah, I mean, it did. It did. It really did. But I always think, I look back now and I know that, because I'm a strong believer, and I know that God, always orchestrates your steps. I mean, he moves you from glory to glory. And so, I look back and I see his hand in all of it.
Okay.
And then I found myself, but I excelled in basketball. I ended up getting a basketball scholarship.
Was this just natural? Did somebody say, hey, you're 5'11", I want to mentor you, I want to teach you? Or were you just kind of like naturally inclined?
Yeah. It was just, I can't even imagine what could have happened if I would have had somebody like mentoring me, I just played basketball with all the guys,
Let me ask you something. First of all, you pointed out a pattern, which I think is absolutely huge. The pattern of going through so much that you're a top performer, sometimes due to the pressure that, you can't even really analyze or pour over what you're actually going through. And so you dive that much deeper into, for instance, school or whatever goals you might have. And so on the surface, it looks like you are absolutely great, but underneath you are like a ticking time bomb, because it's like no one is actually de-escalating the tension that you have from what you've been through. And you're not having the conversations that help you to process what actually happened. And then it's like, that's it. I'm done being a rock star for now. I'm getting ready to rebel for a little while. And a lot of people can relate to that. We've got 444,000 youth in a foster care system, more or less. And so many of them are going to go through that phase that you talked about right there.
Yeah.
Could you pass along some advice to a young person who might be in high school, who's going through their rebellious phase? Can you provide some advice to them?
Whenever I was going through the process of that, I'll never forget my next door neighbor, because it was actually, when my mom and dad were trying to get their lives back together, and they went on a trip. And so I had found the keys to the car, and the car was out all night. And, my mom and dad were, my neighbor was freaking out, and he was like, should I call the cops? And my mom was like, no, it's okay. And we know who it is. Mm-hmm. And, but, he said to me, he said, you have complete control over this situation. You do. And, you can, and you have a choice. You have a choice.
That's right.
And you have a choice right now. And, sometimes these choices in your life can determine the outcome of your life, whether you decide or not, whether you decide to make a good choice or a bad choice, but whatever choice you make could determine the outcome of your entire life.
That's right.
And so it really resonated with me, because obviously it wasn't my mom and dad, and it was somebody that I really respected. And, so I came up with this term, you know, um, what's between your B and your D is your C.
Wow.
So
Okay.
what's between your B and your D is a C.
Okay.
So what's between your birth and your death is a choice.
Wow. Okay. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. It's a formula. Okay.
And so, right there, then I'm like, it really made me realize that I had more power and control than I was giving myself the authority to have.
Talk about it. That's right.
And, so just because whatever happened before, whatever happened, whatever the current set of circumstances were, I had a choice to formulate the outcome. And so I realized that I had a lot of power, and I could either use it or lose it. And I decided to, and I decided to use it at that point. I decided to use my power. I decided to use who I was created to be, that I wasn't going to just fall prey to let life lead me around by the nose and kick me in the butt.
That's right.
And so, so that was a pretty pivotal moment for me. And whenever I was in through high school and stuff, I had a very strong work ethic, and like I said, I ended up with a scholarship, but because I had what they called chronic dislocating shoulders, like my shoulders would dislocate in a game, one or the other, if not both. And it was going to require some surgery. And, at that particular time, if you think about it, that was several years ago. It was like, they just didn't have the technology that they do now. And I was going to lose my mobility. And anyway, long story short, I walked away from a scholarship. I went to a university. I put myself through school. My parents were going through a bankruptcy at the time whenever I started college. So I was literally, when I moved out, they were moving out at the same time, and I had no home to come to. So I was like, whenever I moved out, that's it. No coming.
Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get some hearts and likes in the building, because there's all types of inspiration coming out of this conversation right now. And it's funny that you have that vault behind you, because it's like you decided to open that vault and to really give yourself to the world, no matter what you were going through. And I don't take that lightly at all. There are a lot of people in this world who never open that vault and who never bring out nuggets of value, talents, attributes. They never pull the leadership out of themselves, because, life is trying to make you lie down, but you decided to stand up.
Yeah.
Had you heard of a motivational speaker or a personal development coach when you were in high school?
I had no clue.
I
had no clue what any
clue.
like that was. I had zero concept of anything. I mean, the closest thing I had was, I guess the scripture, that was, but I'm still a teenager, right? I mean, I graduated at 17. And but whenever I moved out, I'm on my own, and I literally worked 3 jobs, put myself through school. So that was quite fun. At that particular, then I met a guy, and he was the it guy on campus.
Okay.
He was a scholarship athlete. He was a track guy. He ended up being a 12-time All-American in shot put, discus, and hammer. Went to tried Olympic trials. He ended up having 2 semesters of eligibility whenever his track was done, and so he played football, and he became All-American as a backup defensive end, and ended up getting drafted in the NFL. And
wow.
So he was quite the athlete, and he was quite the star of the campus. And And I found myself in a relationship with him. And, about 6 months into the relationship, he was very, very, very controlling, very domineering.
What were the signs? What were the signs of this oncoming danger? What were the red flags that young ladies can look out for today? Were there any?
Yeah. So, he isolated me away from my family. He,
Wow.
he isolated me away from my friends. If I tried to go out or do anything with my friends, he had to know where I was, where I was going, and he would show up. And so those were some of the initial signs.
How did you get past this relationship? Because I'm like, I am totally against this guy right now. I'm thinking, after all you've been through, this is not a fairy tale ending. This guy was terrible.
Well, so there's a lot. So 6 months into the relationship, he proposed to me.
Okay.
And I said yes. Not because I wanted to say yes, but I was afraid to say no.
Let's take a moment to acknowledge the challenge that so many women face today.
Yeah.
An absolute gem of a person. You've been through so much in life, and you're in a position where you're afraid to say no, and so you say yes. And we've got to take this moment to raise awareness that women clear across the country and the world right now are making that choice. And it's up to all of us to keep our eyes open and to continue to teach each other how to be respectful to women, how to uphold women, and how to appreciate their no. It should be absolutely fine for a woman to say no.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a different conversation, but I just wanted to draw that out for everybody. It's okay for a woman to say no, and it's a tragedy when she doesn't have the support to do so. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I appreciate you acknowledging that. I did try to break off the engagement with him one time. And as I broke up and I ran out of his apartment, he chased me down the street and threw me over his shoulder and carried me back to his apartment, and then proceeded to sit on me and choke me and tell me proceeded to tell me that nobody was ever going to love me the way he would love me.
And that was not love.
No.
And that was not love. I want to know, how did you get away from this guy?
Well, I didn't. And so this is where my whole past really catches up with me right now, Cedric.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because here I am. I'm gone through this whole process. I've gone through with my mom and my dad. I don't have like a home base. I don't. I've been isolated from my family, from my friends. I'm getting ready, I'm thinking about graduation. I'm thinking about, like, what am I going to do? So, and it starts getting in your head that you start thinking, okay, what if this is all there is? What if this is as good as it gets? Because you have to remember, my whole life, this is all I've ever known. I watched my real dad beat my mom. I watched my stepdad and all the things that happened with my own mom. And I'm starting to think, okay, is there such thing as a fairy tale? Does that even exist? Or is this really what life and love really look like? And you start vacillating, and you start questioning everything. And you think, and then you start looking at the box, and you know, women watching there probably will connect with this. Like, what is the box? You know, he checked off, he come from a good family. You know, he's a great athlete. He's going to have a good job. You know, you know, he's going to be a great provider. You know, he's a believer. You know, he's checking off all the boxes. He's checking off all the boxes. Right? How many of us women, like, we've got, because he checks off all the boxes. And so that was
there must be boxes that we can't see.
Yeah.
There must be boxes that we can't see. And so what we're on the brink of right now, not to be funny, is making the world a better place right now. We've all got boxes that no one can see. And that doesn't mean that we should end up getting mistreated by someone because they have boxes that we couldn't see. And I'd like to see the world designate dynamic programs to teach young men and women how to grow into effective men and women. Yeah. I think that it's separate from church. It's separate from school. We need a rites of passage program that affirms who you should be becoming. I mean, we've got to invest a lot more in that area.
Yeah.
And so I'm encouraging that today. I am also doing that work of creating a place where young men and women can go to learn how to actually develop into healthy adults. We need that. You didn't have it, and it's unfortunate. I'm glad that you're here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. So I ended up getting married to this man, and he ended up being in the NFL. We ended up having, I ended up found myself pregnant. We were moving to LA. It was my very first doctor's visit. I'm 8.5 months pregnant with my first baby, going to see my first doctor, having my first doctor's visit. I go to see my first doctor, and they can't find a heartbeat.
Oh my God.
And so I found myself in a strange place, no friends, no family, no furniture. And having to deliver a baby that was stillborn. So
where is the church in your life at this time?
So this is an interesting question because, you know, I was born, you know, keep in mind that, I mean, my grandparents were my rock, my stable. They were my, you know, they always, like, you know, even whenever my mom and my stepdad didn't go to church, I was the girl that rode the church bus, right, to go to church. And so my granddad, whenever we were moving to California, and he said, okay, you know, I know you need to go find a church. He goes, now, don't you go get involved in none of those charismatic churches out there.
What's that mean?
Well, you know, because I was raised Southern Baptist, you know, so it was very, very, you know,
strict to the word.
Yeah, you know, and, you know, for him, like, I was like, I didn't even know what that meant, right? You know, what that meant, but the house that we had, it was near the beach, and there was this place called Hope Chapel. And some players' wives had invited me to come to church and to a women's Bible study.
Okay.
And so I went to church in that very first moment, and we walked in, and I'm telling you, I'd never felt anything like that in my life. And I guess it was one of those charismatic churches because I'd felt the Holy Spirit like I'd never felt it in my life. And so it was it was such an amazing time and growth of, you know, just God just showed up and showed out. And then after losing my first baby, I found myself pregnant 6 weeks later. Okay. And so I had 2 babies inside of 1 year. Right. Mm-hmm. And and then he had a career-ending injury. And so in this time, so I had I'm having a baby, and he's getting his career's ending. He tore his Achilles tendon, his career's ending, got a brand new baby. And now we're moving back to West Texas, where it all started.
Full circle.
Full circle. And so that was whenever he was going to go back to school to get his teaching, to teach and coach. And then I had this brand new baby that I was like, there's no way I'm going to put this baby in daycare. No way. There's not a chance. And that's what started my journey into network marketing. I mean, I tried so many things that I was going to work from home to make money, to make extra money. My goal was I was wanting to make $800. That's all I cared about. I just needed to make $800 because that was, to me, that was work. That was like working for full time. You got to think about 28 years ago, working full time and paying for daycare. And that's how I got started. And I got started with my company. I made $420 in my first week. I was so excited. And by the end of my first month, I made an extra $2,400. And that's what really set the pace and set me on a journey for success to beyond my wildest expectations, to having 3 daughters as a stay-at-home mom, to having 3 daughters as being a single mom.
Right.
I mean, I broke the mold. I broke the chain. I broke I broke it.
If I can.
Yes.
You're a true inspiration, and I can relate to just how you overcame. I've not been through the types of things that you've gone through, and I want to help champion your story today by encouraging the entire community to be more respectful to women. Be more respectful to yourself first and foremost. But it's not okay, even though it made her an absolute diamond. It's not okay for us to treat a woman the way that she was treated and just think that life goes on because we live in a patriarchy where that's the way that it works. No, that's not the way that it works. Thank God that you are a victory today. You're an inspiration today. And ladies and gentlemen, sit tight because we're going to talk about how she got big in business right after this brief message. America's Next Motivator, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern. America's Next Motivator, hosted by me, Cedric Riley, and sponsored by the Pride Empowerment Network. And we're back. Taylor, are you ready for the victory lap?
I am. Let's go.
Absolutely. So now you started a business while being a single mother. What specific business was this, and how did you grow the business?
So I started as a stay-at-home mom, and then as a single mom, so that was this. It was the same business. I was a distributor for a health and wellness product. And that's, that was right up my alley. I loved the product. I loved what it did. I loved how it helped people. And that was really, I learned a few fundamental skills, that I was taught early on. And I call them just basic fundamentals. It's no different than dribble, pass, shoot, right? Mm-hmm. It's no different than run, hit, catch. So it's just fundamentals. And whenever you can do that, and you can do that repeatedly and consistently, what can happen and what can take place for a business. And so I find it interesting that you asked me about, personal growth. And that was, it was whenever I was introduced to, to the space and in networking was personal growth. And they always said, well, if you work harder on yourself than you do your business, the business will come. And whenever I started reading some of these books that they were giving me, and tapes and these audio tapes, and my husband and I, we just launched his book that was the tapes that were in my distributor pack when I started. My husband now was my mentor then.
Wow. Okay.
And so, but I found it very interesting that the principles that they were teaching in business were the same biblical principles that I had already kind of grew up with, that I like mindset and as a man thinketh, and the words you speak, life and death, and the power of the tongue, and how all the business principles were really biblical principles that I knew, okay, it's the same, it's just running parallel and doing the same thing. So I caught on to it really quickly. And it's something that I learned and implement and still implement on my every single day, even to this day.
Sure. I love the way that you connected this so-called new information to what you had always known for the most part.
Yeah.
A lot of times people think that there's a secret to success. There is a secret to generating income, and there's a secret to getting the yes versus getting the no. And you found out that it was a lot of things that you might have already heard or you might have already been doing. What would you say? What would you say are the top two things that enabled you to be successful in business that you had already heard about or learned in church or elsewhere?
I don't know the two specific things. I will just take a stab at one of them for sure. Would be mindset,
Okay.
As a man thinketh.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned early on, I knew that everything, because I know whenever you're creating in God's image, we are speaking spirits. And if we're created in his image, what happened? God said, let there be light, right?
That's right.
It had to come from a thought. The thought becomes the word. So for me, that really connected a lot of dots for me that I really guarded, guarded my mouth. I guarded my thoughts. I renewed my mind. So I knew all of those concepts to be true, and I knew that you had to do them daily. So for me, that's one of the things that was a big one. And another thing was just learning how to do something daily.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had a daily ritual of what I did with my prayer and what that was already entailed in just being a mom and being the best person, because I knew that if I didn't fill myself up with having 3 girls, like, oh gosh, right, you gotta you gotta fill yourself up. You can't pour out of an empty cup. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was one of the things that I learned early on. And here's the thing, it's not about the messenger. It's about the message.
That's right.
And so I learned from, so here's the thing, like I got really good at telling my story. Whenever you look throughout the Bible, it's about parables. Jesus taught everything through a story. And so I learned how to be a really good storyteller and a really good story collector, because I know people connect through stories, and I know they relate through stories. And so it's not about getting somebody to buy your product or buy your service. It's not about getting somebody to join your company, or it's not even about that. It's just about sharing what's happened enough about you and just letting them to come to their own natural, logical conclusion. I mean, God gives us a free will. Why wouldn't we give other people a free will? You just tell the story. You tell the story. And then they go, wow, I want what you have. I want your life. I want my life to look like yours. Okay, great. Then just join me. Just I did. If it works for me, it can work for you. That's the feel, that's the concept. And so I've always been really transparent about communicating. If I can do it, you can do it. There's nothing special about me. There's nothing special about me. I know that if a stay-at-home mom like me can do this, so can you. And so that's how I've always built my business. That's how I've always communicated with people. I don't talk down to people. I relate to people and connect with them and help them create a believability in themselves, because belief determines behavior. I know if I can get you to believe in yourself and take one little step outside of the circle you're standing in and get you one little win, then you're going to have the confidence to do that again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just now tuning in, we have been on a heck of a ride today listening to Taylor's story. She's been through a lot. I mean, a whole lot. She's been through so much that you should actually go back and replay this episode after we finish and realize the application that your story has on someone else's story. When you tell your story, you give other people the permission and the idea that they should tell their story. And guess what? When you start telling your story, people want to join your movement. They want more of where that came from. They want to buy your product, and then your business grows. And that is extremely, extremely genuine information for you to provide to us today. Chastity Curry is in the building. She says, belief determines behavior. I love that. I love it too. I love it too. When you say, because the next question I was going to ask you, which I didn't have to ask, was how do you get people to say yes? You're in the business of sales, and there's a lot of people who just prefer to say no to you than to say yes. And then guess what? I'm a millionaire. You decided to tell your story, to be authentic, to be candid, just like we're doing right here in this hour.
Yeah.
And it draws people to you. I'm drawn to you. People in the audience are drawn to you. And so what we're learning today is that for everybody out there, this is a universal story.
Yes.
Decide to listen to the spiritual messages that exist in your life. 9 times out of 10, the big secret, you've already heard it before. Clean your temple, be genuine, and tell your story. And whatever it is that you desire to do is going to grow.
Yeah.
Now, for those people who want to get down to even more business, how did your business grow? I mean, what did you actually achieve? What did you accomplish? What are some numbers? Why are you a big deal in your own life?
Well, I don't like to think of myself as a big deal. To be honest with you, I mean, I've created a multi 7-figure business. I went on to build a multi-million-dollar company. We sold that. Now my husband and I, we do consulting for companies and leaders inside of our space. We just launched our first book, The Millionaire Training, which is the golden nuggets and principles for networkers. So this is my pride and joy, because this really is my husband's legacy. These are the nuggets that I learned, that I implemented, and that we've gone on to. If you've heard of the company Herbalife, know that he was the co-founder of the company. We just, that's a multi-billion-dollar company. We just mentored our second company to $1 billion in 2019. In 2020, they just hit $1.8 billion in sales. So all of that is based around these fundamentals that I'm sharing with you, all around these simple ideas. Because, so many times in social media, especially in the times that we live in, everybody wants to complicate it. Everybody wants to, we call it, you think you have to drive a Lamborghini and wear a bikini to have success. And that's just not true. There are more people out there that need your opportunity. They need your story because they don't believe that they can do it. We've got 60 million people just in the US alone that are looking for an opportunity to make an extra $500 to $1,500 a month. And we've got people that are doing that inside of our space and are not sharing that opportunity because they don't think their story is good enough. They don't think it's enough to share for somebody to want to join them in what they're doing. And that's a lie. That's a lie. Don't buy into the lie. That's the
What happens? What happens when you say, this is good, I'm loving it, I'm loving the returns that I'm getting by doing these regiments, they're paying off in my life, and I don't want to tell anybody about it because it's all for me. Talk to me about the difference between that attitude and the attitude of, this is great, I'm going to go share with as many people as possible. How is that making your business grow bigger and better?
So here's the thing, we call it the gold mine attitude. Mm-hmm. And there's a story that we share. It's a gold mine attitude. And if you knew there was a gold mine and you could go in that gold mine, and for every coin that you took out of that gold mine, 2 replaced it. Mm-hmm. Who would you share? And what kind of sense of urgency would you have? Would you try to keep, because here, every 1 replaces with 2. Wouldn't you tell everybody that you knew, come with me, bring your wheelbarrow, bring your shovel, let's go get all the gold we can? Right. Because for every 1 that you take out, there's 2 coming right back. You need help. That's so around that. Here's the thing. I want you to think about this, and this is a biblical principle. Because every single one of your listeners that are listening here, you are here. You are here to solve a problem. You have your gifts and talents that you have are here to solve somebody's problem. You're here. Right. You're a gift for someone else. Somebody right this minute is looking for your solution. They're looking for you. And here's the thing. You have been given gifts and talents. And I just want to ask you, whenever you stand before the Lord, what are you going to say that you did with your talents? Did you bury? Did you? Or did you use them? Did you use them? Did you use them all to the fullest extent? And that's really the answer. That's really the answer.
That's right. What is the value of building a network?
Well, first of all, whenever you're building a network, you've got to think about this. First of all, how many people that you're serving and helping. Mm-hmm. Secondly, is that I want you to think about, whenever you have an employee kind of mentality, that means that you are.
Hold on. We are down to the final seconds of this conversation. But again, you just said something that was absolutely key. Can you take 10 seconds and explain to us what is the employee mindset versus the entrepreneur's mindset? 10 seconds.
Okay. Employee, meaning you don't know you don't have the skills it takes to work for yourself. Meaning you're trading hours for dollars. That's an employee mindset. An entrepreneur mindset. Huh?
How do we change it? How do we go from the employee to the entrepreneur?
You've got to know how to employ yourself. You've got to be able to be Taylor 1 and Taylor 2. Would I hire myself today or would I fire myself today? That's the question.
Gotcha. What is survival to you?
Well, survival to me is being able to get up in the morning and put both feet on the ground. That's really survival to me. Mm-hmm. To me, that's putting both feet on the ground and letting your light shine. That's true survival to me.
Mm-hmm. What is success to you?
Success to me is really success to me is whenever I look at my 3 beautiful daughters and I see how much they love the Lord I see their hearts to serve other people. They are my biggest joy. So to me, my family is my success.
What is greatness to you?
Greatness is whenever you have the heart to serve other people, whenever you can put other people before yourself. Because at the end of the day, whenever you help enough people get what they want, what you want comes in return.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to get your crown emojis ready. Put your crown emojis into the chat right away. We are letting you know, Taylor Thompson, that we've listened to your story and we heard the way that you overcame adversities. You never stopped and you continue to be resourceful and shine an extremely bright light on the world. So we are honoring that today. We're giving you your respect while you're still living, and we're giving you your crown today while you can still receive it. We've got crowns coming into the building for you. We're giving you your crown today, and you absolutely deserve it. We're letting the world know, letting you know, after all, Taylor Thompson, that you are America's next motivator.
Woo! Woo! I love it.
Thanks for stopping by today, all right?
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Mwah, mwah.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Each and every episode of America's Next Motivator is going to have something here for you. All you got to do is stop by and pick it up.